Right, let's unpack this now. Joining us on the plight of the African penguin is Dr. Katta Ludynia, who is the research manager at the Southern African Foundation for the Conservation of Coastal Birds. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. Big matter here. Environmental experts expressing a great deal of concern that the existence of the African penguin may not be for much longer. What are your thoughts around this?
Yes, so as you mentioned, the species are currently declining at about 8% per year, and we've just lost over 55% of the breeding population over the last 10 years alone. And the most recent counts and the recent population modeling actually shows that the species could be extinct by 2035, so not very far from now.
And what is at stake with that information on the forefront and some of the challenges that come with saving the African penguin?
Yeah, so the African penguin is obviously only one of many species that are affected, and it's kind of an indicator species. So it's visible, people come to see it, but also from its behavior and its biology, it's a very good indicator species. So the fact that this species that was very abundant just a few decades ago has been declining so dramatically is really showing us that something is wrong in the environment. And our biggest concern and the key driver of the current population decline seems to be the lack of fish, in particular of small pelagic fish, so sardine and anchovies.
I know that in a desperate bid to save the endangered African penguin, there is a lawsuit that is underway against the Environment Minister, Barbara Creecy, of course, hoping to challenge the minister. What is the basis of that legal fight?
Yeah, so there has been an experiment going on for over 12 years, initiated by DFFE, to close small pelagic fishing, so the fishing for sardine and anchovy around key breeding colonies. And that experiment has actually shown that closing certain areas around these colonies to fishing can have a positive benefit for the penguins. So then the minister actually called for an international panel to assess all the science around this experiment last year. And the panel recommended to close the remaining 6 key breeding colonies for long term, so for 10 years. And to do this using a method that identifies the key foraging areas of the African penguin to reduce the competition with the commercial fisheries. However, in a statement last year in August, the minister said that she will close the island for 10 years, but the areas that are basically now closed to commercial fishing are not the core foraging areas for the penguin. So they're actually kind of meaningless for the protection of the species.
So what are you essentially arguing? That should that move continue, what will the ripple effect be?
So if these areas that are the key foraging areas for the birds are not properly protected, the birds will continue to struggle to not find enough food, and will continue to compete with the industrial commercial fisheries for sardine and anchovy, and thus the decline will continue, and we will be losing this species in the wild.
As the decline has the possibility of continuing, what sort of role do seabirds play in aiding that decline?
So it's obviously a combination. So it's as I said, the penguin's only one of the species. We have actually other species, other seabird species that are also feeding on sardine and anchovy that are also all declining. So the lack of prey is also affecting, for example, other fish species, for example, snook or yellowtail. So all this, the ecosystem is quite a complex system. So there is probably a lot more other effects that we might not even know yet in other species that will be affected.
As the legal matter is underway, what does the African penguin survival depend on, insofar as whatever outcome could come from this legal action?
So as my Sandparks colleagues in the video explained, there's obviously a lot of other activities that are going on besides the legal action. So the legal action is only about the delineation of these closures to reduce the competition with the industrial fishing. However, all these other activities run by Sandparks, BirdLife, everything continues. So we continue to rescue birds during heat events or rain events. We continue all the research on different threats. So there's a lot of management that is taking place alongside of the litigation.
Perhaps before we close off our discussion, why is it so important to ensure that the species is saved?
So for once, it's obviously we rely on this ecosystem for our own health and survival. So it will affect, other, as I said, other fish species, other food chains. But also the African penguin brings in a lot of money to the South African economy. So, I mean, just look at boulders in the video clip. There's millions of people visiting this colony. There's millions of international tourists arriving in South Africa to see the African penguin and other wildlife that needs to be protected. We have big film companies coming. So the African penguin actually has a huge economic value to the country and obviously also a benefit to its people.
As this legal action takes place and many of the other initiatives are underway to save the African penguin, is considering it endangered enough? Does it go beyond that?
So it does actually go beyond it. With the latest census that was conducted last year, we have actually submitted numbers to the IUCN, which is the organization that put this classification in place. And it is highly likely that the species will be listed as critically endangered within 2024, which would be the first penguin species worldwide that has reached that really threatened status, which is just one step away from extinction.
Which is quite a frightening revelation. How much time is there for this legal matter to play out? And will the time frame be to the jeopardy of the African penguin?
Have much time left. I mean, 2035 is not far away, and the African penguin also only starts breeding at the age of 3 or 4. So basically birds that are born now will only be breeding in 4 years' time. So we need to get these birds out now and make them survive for the next few years to then actually return and have enough food to raise their own offspring. So we really can't wait much longer to put these measures into place.
Very well. Thank you so much for bringing us up to speed with that very concerning matter indeed. Joining on the plight of the African penguin is Dr. Katta Ludynia there, who's a research manager at the Southern African Foundation for the Conservation of Coastal Birds. We do, of course, continue to bring you more of the other news we're tracking for you this evening. None of the contractors who had initially applied to be part of the the legal framework of a water supply matter. In fact, this is a story that we will be bringing you more of, a water treatment initiative that is insured through the contractors who initially applied for such an initiative for a tender to install a portable water treatment plant to provide clean, drinkable water for Hammanskraal residents. That, of course, is a story that we will continue to bring you more of